Welcome everyone to Hikaru Nakamura taking on Praggnanandhaa in the fourth round of the Norway Chess 2024. In the previous round, Praggnanandhaa has just beaten Magnus Carlsen and now Hikaru is his next opponent. D4 by the American Grandmaster and Praggnanandhaa responds with knight to f6. It's going to be very exciting because this was the same matchup that also happened in the World Cup where Praggnanandhaa managed to outwit Hikaru Nakamura and eliminate him from the tournament. But then Hikaru got his revenge in a very crucial round in the candidates. So now to the Norway Chess, well, Hikaru says, I'm happy with the Nimzo Indian coming in with bishop b4. Arbiter asks Hikaru that can you please keep your bottles on the other side so that it doesn't interfere with the cameras, and Hikaru of course understands everything about broadcasting and just keeps it there. Bishop b4 played. We have the Nimzo Indian on the board and e3, the Rubinstein variation has been played here. This is getting more and more popular. Praggnanandhaa very quick, he castles it out. And Hikaru plays this trendy line with bishop d2. A few years ago, no one was actually playing this move, but now it is all the rage. Well, Pragg strikes in the center with c5. Even more common is the move d5 here, but Pragg goes c5. Hikaru asks a question to the knight, to the bishop, that will you exchange it for the knight, and Pragg has to do it. So he takes, bishop takes c3. And now after bishop takes c3, white has the bishop pair and very good control of the center. But Pragg instantly brings his knight in, attacks the bishop on c3. The knight comes to e2, defending the bishop. And now Pragg takes his time and plays b6. Well, if you took here and took here, then the problem is white would push d5 at the right time. So b6, but anyway, Hikaru pushes his pawn to d5 and tells Pragg that your bishop on c8 won't be active on this diagonal because there's a pawn in between. Well, Praggnanandhaa now has to carefully navigate this through. He goes bishop a6, attacking the pawn on c4. So very interesting play going on. b3 played. And the point of this move is that now the bishop has a barricade here, but Pragg goes b5. I love how Pragg is playing with so much of energy in the position. He's not letting Hikaru calm down. The one thing that Hikaru has is the center, but what Pragg has is the initiative because his king is castled. Queen c2 played, attacking the knight. Now Pragg first takes on the d5 square in the center. Hikaru must recapture back. cd5 has been played, and now you take here on c3. I guess you want to eliminate that bishop, so he takes, and Hikaru's position does become slightly good because takes back with the queen. Now he could have taken back with the knight as well, but I think what he didn't like was b4, simplifying things. So queen takes c3 played, and now Pragg goes d6, just bringing this Benoni-like structure here. But with the pawn already on b5, he has more space, and that's already a good thing for him. Hikaru plays knight to g3, and well, if Hikaru can manage to get his central pawns running, that would create a lot of pressure. So a nice imbalance is shaping up here. Pragg develops his knight, and yeah, this is well defended for the time being. Even if you try a4, I have b4 hitting the queen, and then the bishops can be traded. So a very simple move by Hikaru. He says, let me just go bishop e2 and short castles. That should be fine for me. Pragg now brings his knight to the center, attacking the pawn on d5, so you don't have time to castle. You will lose the pawn here. And Hikaru brings his queen back. Also, now playing against the b4 move. So then a4 does become ideas at some point. Pragg, I think a very logical move here is rook e8. Just putting the rook on the semi-open file. White's position is decent. Black should be happy with the outcome of the opening. And f3 played. I was expecting him to castle. But with f3, now the bishop no longer is looking here. h5, h4 can be a very interesting idea. Just imagine if you play h5, castles h4. Already it seems like black has the initiative flowing. But Pragg decides against it. He doesn't go h5. He plays queen b6, which is also an interesting move because when you castle now, there is a possibility to play c4. Well, Hikaru just goes e4 now. He connects his pawns. He opens up the diagonal of the queen. Also, knight f5 can be a dangerous threat. Pragg plays his bishop back to c8, controlling the square on f5. I liked it. Also, I'm sure that he considered c4, which is a nice move. But bishop c8 is played, a4 by Hikaru. And now, taking on a4 seems the most logical. You might want to go b4, but that just gives away the c4 square. But Pragg goes bishop d7, and this is a mistake. This is a very subtle mistake. Let's see if Hikaru finds it. Yes, he does. He takes on b5, which is an anti-positional move. Why? Because after bishop b5, the b3 pawn is going to be weak here. And black seems to be doing excellently well. However, what Pragg has missed is first take the bishop, queen takes, and now a very strong move. Let's see if Hikaru manages to find it. It is basically putting your knight on the f5 square. Excellent move because not only creates the threat on d6, also prepares queen g5 in some lines. King can go to f2. There's no problem of castling. You can give up the b3 pawn, connect the rooks. Fantastic understanding by Hikaru Nakamura, but Pragg sacrifices a piece. Oh my god! What a move by Praggnanandhaa here. And Hikaru comes back. Magnus tries to see what's happening. Wow, this is very exciting. Pawn takes. Hikaru takes back, looks at his opponent. Pragg, what's your idea? Rook takes. You know, Pragg could have defended the d6 pawn, but he just sacrificed a piece. What next, Pragg? There's no check here. What is your idea? Do you want to double here, but then just white brings the rook in? Rook e5 played. And attacks the knight and the pawn. This does seem like a very, very unclear sacrifice, but actually the engines give it as a clearly better position for Hikaru. Wow, bold Hikaru takes the pawn. Well, according to the engines, the better move was g4, but it was very difficult to find such a move. But knight d6 is excellent. Queen b6 played, attacking the knight and threatening c4. So the knight jumps back, forks the queen and the rook, but there is a check in the position. Queen f6 or rook f5. He goes queen f6 check, and now the king comes back to g1. And now the rook is hanging here. Rook e2 played by Pragg. Whoa! If queen takes, then queen takes a1 is a draw. Believe it or not, this is a draw. So Hikaru has to be careful after rook e2. He finds the best move. Rook f1, you take my queen, I take your queen, and that's great news. So Pragg now takes the queen. Hikaru also chops it off. And now even if Pragg decides to win this way a pawn, it just frees up the rook, you know, just rook can come in. So that's the reason why first rook d5 played. Hikaru comes back with his rook on f3. So Pragg has two pawns for a piece, and there is one thing that is working in Pragg's favor. That is, Hikaru's rook is passive on h1. Apart from that, he should be completely lost here. But that's the only factor which can help Pragg, and in the meantime, if he manages to get this pawn, but Hikaru's knight says, sorry my friend, that's not going to happen anytime soon. He plays his knight to a5. Pragg goes rook d2. So now if some way Pragg manages to get his other rook, let's say this way, attack the knight and the pawn, or rook e8 and rook e2, he would have compensation. But what a nice move by Hikaru. I really love this move, because when this pawn is attacked, he can defend it from h3. Rook a2 played, attacking the knight here on a5. For Praggnanandhaa, this is not going to be an easy game to defend because first of all, he was having no problems out of the opening, but now suddenly he's in a completely lost position. It's a sad position. But then Pragg is a fighter. He pushes his A pawn. And you know, even if you are able to liquidate the A and B pawns, there could be some chances there. So let's see how this is dealt with. First, Rook H3. Now to remember that A4 is possible. Oh, he plays A4. I thought it was not possible because of this fork. Why did he play this? Look at Hikaru there. Knight B6. Attacking the rook and the pawn. What has Praggnanandhaa missed? Well, the point being, I think Pragg did not miss or anything. He just wants the knight to be in the corner of the board. Knight A4. And now, can we push C4? Well, he first goes Rook C2. So, in a way, Pragg says to the knight, look, all your squares have been taken away by my rooks. Very interesting. Very interesting. Rook F4 played. But I think it's only increased White's advantage. But practically, on a human level, it feels like Black's play is slightly easier now in the sense that he can make his moves very quickly and so on. H5 played. And now Rook D3 is on the board. He brings his rook on in the center and Black pushes his pawn to F6. Well, if you play now Rook F5, it's possible, but it allows C4 and this is exactly what you don't want. So Hikaru has to play carefully. He plays his Rook E4, Pragg waits. So somehow both the rooks are a bit tied down on D3 and E4 because one rook has to defend the pawn, one rook has to stop C4. The knight is not coming into the game so easily. Has Pragg managed to create a lot of problems for Hikaru? Well, it definitely seems so. For the time being, both the players playing with their king. King comes up, and now for Hikaru, it's important to find a way to break through. He has 19 minutes on the clock. Remember, there's no additional time. You'll only get 10-second increment per move now, which is not much if you have to find a win here. But 19 minutes is a lot of time. King comes to F3, and Pragg waits. King G6. Hikaru also waits. Well, this is some kind of a waiting game going on by both the sides before White takes any steps to play for a win. I don't know how he will do it, but I'm sure he will find a way in some way or the other. King H2. A player like Hikaru, of course, knows what to do in such positions. So he somehow put his king back on H2 and in fact come lower on time than Praggnanandhaa. Pragg now has 11 minutes. Hikaru has only 8 minutes. Check. King F7. And now a rook comes to F4. How does White continue? Black continue here. He just moves his rook back to B8. Rook F3. And now Black just waits. Oh man, this is a big waiting game that's going on. King H3. And Praggnanandhaa now again waits with his king. And now Hikaru moves his pawn to G3, just clearing off the last rank. Maybe at some point he'll get some opportunity. King G6. You want to get your knight into the game, but how? This time Rook E4. But how does it stop anything? I mean, I can just go back King F7. He goes King H6. This is what has been going on for a long time. Look at Hikaru. He's down to 3 minutes. He plays Rook E3. Well, Pragg's move is ready. You know, he's going to play Rook King G6. Or is there some ideas now with King G6? Well, rook b5 played by Pragg. He changes his move. Maybe, I don't think that changes much. Hikaru playing rook d3. And now, maybe rook a5 would be very interesting with the idea of c4. But instead, Pragg goes back, rook b8. And Hikaru offers a trade of rooks. Rook c4. This is very interesting because if you see, now he's giving back the pawn. Hikaru has just 20 seconds. The way in which he's playing, he has to speed up. Now the c5 and c4 pawns are going to be traded. And this is the position that Pragg was angling for. However, you will see how Hikaru has slightly improved his position before going here. And in a way, he's telling Pragg that this position is lost for you. By the way, Pragg has played this with a knight and 2 pawns against rook and 3 pawns, like similar position against Evander Liang in the World Juniors before, where he managed to win with rook and knight versus rook. But here, take, and you can see Pragg being very sharp on the board because he knows that there are some drawing possibilities here. However, not that many. Hikaru has 1 pawn. If you are able to trade off that 1 pawn, somehow it's a draw. Now Hikaru has to reorganize his pieces, and when it comes to blitz chess, there's no one better than Hikaru Nakamura. Check, king comes back, and Pragg pins the knight. Ooh, knight f5, what a move there. If you take, I have a check and I win back. That's winning endgame. So Pragg moves the rook away, knight comes back to g3. You can see how the knight and rook are now coordinating to attack the pawn on h5. Hikaru moves his king up. And now another check. The king has to move forward now. Yes, he does. And now next, if you give a check, then knight blocks it. Check. A knight block. And f5 cannot be played because of rook f5. Wow. That's some serious improvement here. Pragg tries to now check from behind. Rook d6 attacking the f6 pawn. Hikaru nodding there. He knows he's winning. But how easy or difficult it's going to be? Check. King comes back to e3. Rook moves back to f5. And Hikaru down to 49 minutes. Well, up to, I must say, because he's gained time. He was down to 20 seconds. Now 49 seconds. Waits with his rook. Rook f1. You can see 24 seconds on the clock. Hikaru is not feeling that comfortable here. Pragg is giving some amazing resistance. Check is threatened now from g1. Rook e5 played. King moves up. Well, I think Hikaru has managed to somehow steady everything down, and I think he'll be able to convert this. He goes rook to f1. And now, you can see him nodding his head. I think it's one of the things which you should never fall for when facing Hikaru. He would nod his head, but it's not a sign that he's kind of winning or anything. It's just that he's showing confidence. He understands the position. He's just very expressive there. Knight goes back to c3. And now the knight plans to come to d5 perhaps. Put more pressure on f6. Rook a3, rook f4 played. And Pragg comes back. You know, the scope of play is so limited here that even though the knight and rook exist, they are not able to create so much play because the white king is not able to take part in the proceedings. So you have 2 attackers and you have 2 defenders. By the way, exchanging rooks is a lost position, so Pragg doesn't do it. 36 seconds for Hikaru. He waits. He waits here. Is this a fortress? Pragg moves his king. Interesting. What's Hikaru's next setup? Wow. World number 3 is being made to stretch here. Rook a4 played by Hikaru. And now we don't really have the main angle, so we're going to analyze the game from this one. Praggnanandhaa now makes his move, plays rook d6. Hikaru brings his king in to the game. And there you see him being relaxed now. I'm not sure if he knows how to sort of convert this, but I think he has understood that perhaps the knight has to go to f5 or knight has to go to f4 maybe. Aha, that's the point. Rook e5 and now knight to first a check, king g6, and now if knight f4 check, that seems like game over. You can see Hikaru just scanning the board, calculating all the lines, and he plays knight f4. Fantastic move with a check, and already king h6. The king would be tied down completely on the side of the board, and the winning expression can be seen there. Hikaru knows that the writing is on the wall, that he's done it here. But we have to wait and watch. Praggnanandhaa plays his king up to f5, but now with the knight taking away both these squares, it's game over. Rook h7 is on the board and Praggnanandhaa has to resign. He gives his hand in resignation. Hikaru knows this was a very tough fight, and but he's managed to beat Praggnanandhaa, who was in form, was the leader, and Hikaru, what a game by him, what a conversion.